Earlier today. I have a couple things to do later on, so I was just trying to get it in. You guys know how it is. So give me a second here. I'm gonna get the stream set up. I'm gonna turn on all the messages. I'll see you guys here. I gotta make sure I got ChatGPT open. You guys let me know how I'm doing though. You guys let me know how I'm doing. Um, oh my God. I'm making such a mess here, guys. Oh my God. You know, when you sort of, but not really, don't have room for all the stuff, and I'm clinking around, I'm making a huge ton of messy sounds, but yeah, so good to see everyone. Like I was saying, I do have to go live I've got some stuff planned for later today, so I wanted to go live, say hi to everyone, um, kind of give some updates. You know, Fox News is going absolutely wild and crazy today. Fox News is going nuts today. You know, they are really grabbing onto this, to Donald Trump's posture with Iran. And so, for a lot of folks who are worried about Donald Trump's actions, and not just worried about Donald Trump's actions, but truthfully, like, um, you know, I think people that are looking around and like, um, what don't I know about Iran? You know, is there justified use of force? How exactly do we go about, kind of gauging and measuring the situation? Um, and so Iran's scheduled to have the first public execution for this round of protests, and it's this guy named Efren. Let me look him up real quick. Efren, Iran. And so basically the story is, yeah, Efren Soltani. He's a 26-year-old guy. He was arrested for taking part in demonstrations. So a few years ago, Iran arrested and executed some guy who they said took money, was paid to protest and attack security forces in Iran, like police, or the sort of federal government sort of forces, security forces. And so, in these types of cases, Iran will tell you they don't typically execute political prisoners, even though they have in the past. Per Sharia law, usually executions are done for murder, crimes against women, and for like trafficking, drug smuggling, selling drugs, those types of things. Those are all death penalty crimes in Iran. And just depending on the crime and who the victim is, sometimes Iran waits up to 5 years to execute someone. So this is way different. In the United States, I don't believe in the death penalty. I don't support it personally. I would say that you know, because of the appeals process, because of the circuit courts and all this other kind of stuff, we're supposed to spend a little more time, kind of living in this world where, we give people a chance to speak first. We give people a chance to speak first. We don't let like competition or emotions sort of decide if we're going to execute people. And this is why a lot of U.S. states actually say in the first place that you don't need to have the death penalty. Now, in these cases where Iran is making a political statement, maybe they're trying to drum up support from their base. They're trying to also kind of gauge and see if protesters in Iran are they mad about the economic collapse? Are they mad about the regime's and the government's inability to solve resource crises? What exactly are they solving there? I think Greenland is aptly named. If you wanted to name it like Cold Greenland or something, my opinion, and I don't, this is no offense to you. I would call Greenland, I don't know why Stream Elements is on here. Let me delete this. I would call Greenland Cold Greenland, or the Greenland where enough people live, but not a ton of people live, to be honest. I absolutely think Trump would move on Iran. I don't think Trump is capable of executing a good maneuver, though. I think personally with Iran, Donald Trump is going to do something foolish. I don't think he's going to do something that actually helps the Iranian people. I think it's going to make a mess of things. The United States, because we're 10,000 miles away because we don't have direct diplomatic ties. And yeah, I think it's better to do sort of soft diplomacy and let the Iranian people self-determine. There's this term called autonomy and sovereignty. And so, when you're talking about living in and trying to sort of, gauge the best way to manage oppression in a society, we haven't seen a lot of luck from outside forces coming in, right? In Iran and in a lot of places in the world, the philosophy would say, well, this is basically neo-colonization. This is just another way for the United States to, who knows, balance Saudi Arabia and China and Saudi Arabia have cuddled up. They have a lot in common. And Saudi Arabia still does have a lot in common with the United States. And, it's just very silly. It's very silly. We shouldn't let these small petty issues drive our strategy. We should be supporting human rights. Oh, you're in Singapore? Cool. Cool. Yeah, that's neat. Are you mad? I can be. I don't need to be that mad. I'm not mad. I personally think what's infuriating is the idea that there's like multiple ways to see this sort of violence that we're going to see in Iran, and Donald Trump and what's already going on. And given the climate of U.S. media, it's more likely we're only going to hear the story one way. People aren't going to talk about jurisprudence in Iran, even if it sounds super bad. If you're based in Kentucky or or New York or Florida, you should understand that there is a legal system in Iran, even if it is authoritarian, even if it's unlikely people get a fair shot, if there's cruel and unusual punishment, you should still learn that in context. Get a job, bro. You look 40. Yeah. If you got one of them, six-figure jobs laying around, let me know. No, but I love spending time with you guys here too. Yeah, in my spare time, I have other friends that stream and stuff. And so, I know the beard looks pretty crazy. We'll fluff it out a bit. But yeah, in my spare time, I spend a lot of time on YouTube, helping other people with their streams, moderating some chats and stuff like that. Talking about Iran a little bit, talking about in the US, our right-wing media outlet, the furthest right, or more sort of, most conservative media outlet is going absolutely hog wild. They're going wild talking about Trump's response to Iran, and not really educating people at all. There we go. Veer is in Buddhism. Maybe that's called attachment, but mostly that's called right speak. If Trump is being arrogant, selfish, and self-righteous, and he dehumanizes others, I like that a lot. I look like Antifa and sound like Antifa. Yeah, that's another way to go about that. I consider myself a little more centrist. I really like John Huntsman. He was an old Republican. You can look him up if you want. John Huntsman, he was a Republican who ran for president out of Utah. I'm not a Mormon guy, but John Huntsman, he was very well versed in Chinese politics, seemed very centrist, seemed to not really have a lot of socially conservative platforms. And so if that is what you're thinking, I'm thinking you're thinking like green hair, smoking, American spirits, that kind of thing. I personally, from my perspective, I think it's better to have conversation and discussion. Let's see what's up. Yeah, and so Fred, I'm trying to talk about Iran a little bit, but yeah, so very sad. I think, if Fox News came out and said, this Efren Soltani guy, we have to work against the clock to see that Iran sees there's a different way to do this, to see that there's not foreign influence and they don't have to create a domestic response, this disconnected thing. If you want to picture it one way, it's kind of like, if you hang like a dinner plate on a string, Iran will say, well, there's so much pressure crashing into us and stuff. And so there's this other thing going on. Now there's this other thing going on that I'm doing because I have to, because I told people basically that, I'm the government in Iran And one of the things I do is I execute people. Iran executed over 1,000 people one year. Iran executed over 1,000 people one year, and it has very strange processes. Like, the U.S. sort of does too. Like if you murder someone's family member, like your great uncle or something, the family gets to actually speak and say like how you should be punished, and if they forgive you or not. And this is really weird. This is sort of not what we talk about with jurisprudence, right? When we talk about a monopoly on force, we don't typically give that monopoly over to other people. So if you're the one that's allowed to decide what's going on in the world and how you're going to act, that's sort of like one of the hey, what's up, Transicorn? Good to see you. That's one of the sort of like I do see you in chat. Your message got auto modded because the N word, the Nazi word. Apparently you can't say that, but I don't think you're supposed to have a monopoly on violence, and then as a result, you're supposed to like very violently, publicly, loudly give it over to people. That to me doesn't seem like a fair thing to do. Doesn't seem really that fair. Doesn't seem that right. Any of that stuff. Yeah, and the other thing that MAGA is also bringing back up the Epstein files. They are, they have a subpoena for Bill Clinton, and the whole message, despite basically we know nobody's going to talk at this point. It's not only that nobody's going to talk, but this is how I've said it. Jeff Epstein, and listen to this. You might want to hear this, maybe not. People that spent time with Jeffrey Epstein did so for some reason. Jeff Epstein was not even though he was a horrendous predator, Jeffrey Epstein was not a guy who just did things lightly, who did things just for fun, did things for no reason. He was some guy who started as a small-time stockbroker, as a trader, and basically became one of the most influential political guys, a billionaire. And so nobody will just come up and honestly tell people what they did, why they spent time with Jeffrey Epstein. And so when we're talking about this case and basically society's inability to forgive and people's inability to be honest, what the MAGA administration is doing now is saying, well, we can shift the narrative and pressure off of Iran, off the violence in Venezuela, off the potential violence in Greenland, off of the posturing and potential violence against Colombia, all these bad things, these neo-colonial things, or you might say these like realist sort of competitive things that the MAGA administration is doing, all these things that Trump says puts America first. Well, I don't see how that any of this puts America first. Yeah, and if you guys are talking about like, the Federalist and constitutionalism and revolt and all that kind of stuff, I think personally, the very simple solution is Fox News doesn't just create insane posture against everything that peaceful people want to do. They say this is the president of peace, but do you know how that's happened? It's happened through violence. That means it's not a president of peace. Hey, what's up, Mama Duckery? Good to see you again. I don't know what the AFA is either, Mama Duckery. If you want to tell me in chat, I definitely would like to learn. Anti-fascist action. Yeah, I don't know if that's a formal group or something. I consider myself like anti-racist without ever being like, whatever. I think it's important to learn about people like Dr. Martin Luther King, who more or less, who defeated racism in some ways in the United States. He told people that not only can you take nonviolent, peaceful action from anywhere in the country to oppose racism, but he influenced the country to actually change the laws, and to provide legal recognition, to drive that recognition that we didn't live in a fair country and it was completely arbitrary. It was based on hatred. And so those are people I think we should aspire to, not Donald Trump. If it would sound very silly if Martin Luther King had written a book and before his speech in Washington, the famous "I have a dream that one day all my," whatever. Martin Luther King does this "I have a dream" speech, And if he had written a book before that that said, I'm going to go kill Whitey, if Donald Trump, if he had done that and said, I'm going to kill Whitey, and now I'm talking about nonviolence, we would think it's very strange that this is the person that we say defeated racism. We would think it's very strange that this was the person leading the civil rights movement. As it turns out, this is exactly what Donald Trump did. Donald Trump, in his book, which I can show you right here, Donald Trump throughout this book talks about how bad all these dictators and leaders of the world are. He says he's basically, that's basically saying in politics, and you guys are smart enough to know this, and I'm smart enough to know this, that's basically saying I'm going to be a violent president. That's saying I'm okay going to war. That's saying I'm okay using all these tools. In his first term, do you know what Donald Trump did? Not a peaceful person. Donald Trump, not a peaceful person, basically told Israel that they can go be, our right hand committing violence against people. This isn't taking a side in the Palestinian or Israeli conflict. This isn't saying the Gaza war has a winner or a loser, but the Abraham Accords, Donald Trump's, one of his most well-known sort of landmark international treaties that he had signed, the Abraham Accords, what this actually did was basically say that, at the end of the day, we're going to try not to fight, but when we do fight, do you know who it's going to be? It's going to be Christians and Jews versus Muslims. This is all Donald Trump said. It basically said that smaller countries like Qatar or Dubai had the same exact say in things, but only in so much as the fact that Christians and Jews and Muslims can go fight each other. Yeah, physics Y. If you want to talk about energy dependency and what a society actually is. So why is it the case that we can say Dr. Martin Luther King defeated racism in the United States? Why can we say that former President Barack Obama helped to defeat racism in the United States? He proved something was possible that had never been done before. And when we talk about what people actually focus on, yeah, it's sort of like you have this very competent, smart, well-spoken Harvard lawyer, community activist, guy who could have been a billionaire, and he does civil service. And, maybe not the greatest hero in the world, not the greatest villain. He voted against the Iraq and Afghanistan war. But what Barack Obama did in our society was he told us that, we can do better. And he showed people that you can accomplish anything basically from anywhere. Same with Dr. Martin Luther King. Do you know what Donald Trump's book shows? It shows that you can make threats to people you don't know from anywhere. Donald Trump's first term as president showed that you can lie to people, and then you can convince more people to lie to people because it's convenient. I don't know if you guys like things for convenience sake. I don't. And please do. Thank you everyone who's liking the stream. If anyone wants to subscribe, that's also cool. I'll start doing, maybe not today, but some other day, I'll start doing push-ups and stuff for that. Oh man, B20 saying low test men makes the country weak. I don't want to get out of here with that red pill stuff. Not really, but yeah, actually get out of here with that red pill stuff. I don't want to hear about ill-formed competition. If you guys want to hear about strong, whatever, pop my body up a little bit. I don't think I'm that weak. I don't think I have to show you that I'm that strong either in this case. However, I do believe it's what a weak person does is says, Iran is going to execute someone right now, guys. They're lining someone up to be publicly executed. What a weak man does is they don't tell you the truth about that. What a weak person does, someone who's just committed to their identity, they tell you that, yeah, okay, B20, whatever you want to say, man. No offense. But yeah, that's probably fine. And so what a weak person does is they're consistently a liar. They're consistently a liar, and they're okay lying about stuff. Trump for president. Oh, boo-hoo, country boy. Let me show the folks what you're saying. They're saying bad words. They're swearing, talking about MAGA and Donald Trump. And I don't think you're a villain for doing that. I don't think you're a bad person for doing that. But I think you have an opportunity right here and right now, country boy, to learn something and to tell the truth instead of lying about something, about being honest. Being honest is really important. Do you think Fox News has been honest to you? Do you think Fox News has been telling you the truth? If you find an indirect way to confront a lie that you've told to yourself, I want to hear it. I think Fox News does what's convenient. I think Fox News does what people want to hear. The dramatic escalation of military violence around the globe. What happens next for the Americans? What happens next for the Venezuelan people? You know, I want you to think about this too. Donald Trump's talked about oil and gas and energy and, whatever. You can hear my family's Chicago, Illinois accent, right? One of the soybean capitals of the world, by the way. If you don't like that I'm soy, too bad. But here we go. You have all these companies that actually don't want to go and invest. You want to talk about political risk? You want to talk about a complex operation in another country? There's a ton of reasons that the United States did not have a magic solution for Venezuelan oil problems. Not in reality. In Venezuelan society, you guys want to oppose dictators, but you want to lie? I don't believe in that. Mexico first. Mexico's a beautiful country. I was supposed to go to Mexico City for my job once, to what's it called? Yeah, whatever it is. I was supposed to go to the capital. And I'll tell you, I have a passport card. I didn't have my physical passport yet. And so I didn't know that. So I wasn't allowed to get on the plane and actually fly down to Mexico. Yeah. And so Mexico and Canada, our closest neighbors, are all really great friends. Quiet down with the America first crap. Yeah, Mud Butters, I agree. I think it's fine to have a little bit of a national identity, but we used to not talk about it. We used to not talk about it because it was ugly, because national identity may be true in some ways, but it is ugly. And I think people that are responsible enough and smart enough to see that we all have identity are also smart enough and responsible enough to see that it means something. It means that we're tolerant of other people. It means that we try to break down this conception of otherness. We find similarities and not differences. And we find the peaceful solution. If you want to go live somewhere that's not the United States, not the United States in times of peace, what do I say back to you? You get the chance to vote for Trump 4 more years. You're going to get the chance to vote for J.D. Vance 4 more years. This is horrendous. President Trump had the worst first presidency in history. He's having an even worse second presidency in history. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. It's not safe. It's not fun. Hey, what's up? Good to see everyone too. Big Grape fan. Jesus was a Jew. He would not celebrate Christmas. Yeah, Jesus was probably this Aramaic guy. For people that want to know some theories on Jesus or something, it's very likely Jesus, was a Jew who was not like mainstream Jewish. He was outside of Roman and like legalistic Hebrew society. And so some people might say that he was this sort of, like an Amish guy going into the city. Jesus maybe didn't exist also. So I'll mention that. But if Jesus did exist, he was maybe like, going on Rumspringer or something, and kind of figured out like all the things that, Roman society did that people didn't like to do and stuff like that. So, but yeah, Jesus would not have celebrated his own birthday as Christmas. Definitely. Yeah. And physics wise, bringing up a great point, this Bill Clinton subpoena is most likely this, I'm just guessing this is gamesmanship to confuse people. Do you know what's not confusing to me? What's not confusing to me is that Donald Trump talked about violence and then went out and did violence and is doing it more. He committed an illegal operation in Venezuela. He lost sight of what he knew was a very important military operation. This is what's alleged. What's alleged is that the Pentagon ordered a civilian-clad plane to conduct a mission. And so why is this illegal? Because you're not allowed to fly no flag. You're not allowed to do military operations without clearly being displayed as military. Nobody can even prove Jesus was real. Yeah, there isn't historical evidence. So belief in Jesus, Christianity, is typically a faith-based response. It's a faith-based belief, in my opinion. I reject a lot of the sort of like eternally looking sort of arguments and stuff like this. that say, well, we have logical evidence, we have logical or formal evidence that Jesus existed. I personally think that, as a Catholic, we always learned the gospel was like the most infallible part of the Bible, that it was literally Jesus's life. As an atheist, I always look more towards like history theories now. Like, do historians have a theory of Jesus? Why isn't there a theory of Jesus? But yeah, if you guys disagree with me or you know something I don't know, I don't think you do, but bullshit, they proved he existed. Yeah, and this is crazy too, because even someone like Muhammad, and for the Muslims in the audience, peace be upon him. But yeah, even something like Muhammad, who has historical evidence that Muhammad was a person, that evidence doesn't, the historical theory of who this person was maybe doesn't actually extend to telling us anything about who he was or how he was different, right? And so that's kind of weird, for atheists or secular people that look to history and believe both inform each other. Our faith and our histories work together, and this is one of the ways that we form true beliefs about the world. They might say, well, it's sort of weird, if you look at these religious archetypes, whether it's Mohammed or Joseph or someone else, and you're saying that, like, it's weird because most of my evidence about what this person was like and who they are is about other archaeological evidence about people at that time. As someone who doesn't hold faith and belief in every world religion, I think that casts doubts. I think it's less true. It looks less true to me. And I also like physics. I also don't think the Bible had good cosmology, and so all these reasons. Palestine is a region name, not a country. Israel was a country before Greece took them. Maybe I don't know about all that. I do think we haven't had justice for the victims of the Gaza war, though. And the victims of the Gaza war are actually on both sides. If you're a peaceful person, sorry about that. Religion is fake news. Probably, yeah. Yeah. When people are willing to have good faith discussions and we can both talk about like what we believe, even if we can't prove it, but we're also willing to talk about the evidence and what the world is like, things that we agree on and disagree on. I love talking about religion. I have family with master's degrees in religious studies and things like this. I was a liberal arts major. I was a political science major, so technically liberal arts. It's a bachelor's of science, but it's also a liberal arts degree. And so religion comes up a lot. Religion comes up a lot, and it informs us of a very important, not totality of how people made decisions, And so this is wild because Protestants in the United States said, well, we can go be industrious. U.S. Protestants said, I'm going to go to San Francisco and mine for gold or whatever it is. But it's also true. It's also true that the first thing that people kind of saw was that, we can secure the coast. We have to ask the question about how fast cities and regions and states in the U.S. grow. And so this bucket of competitive concerns, what some people don't understand, what I don't think our president understands, it was definitely about building, more bayonets and more like early muskets and stuff like that. It was about this two-way stuff. Two-way folks know that the United States was built on violence and stuff like that. But it was also asking about why you don't extend that violence infinitely. It doesn't make sense. Why isn't every society a Spartan culture? We don't have a Spartan culture in the United States. Pete Hegseth has said we're all war fighters or something like this. That doesn't make any sense. I want to be clear about something. Every person in the United States military is not a war fighter. They're still in the military. And this also, the second thing that's also true, is that, your war fighters and stuff, what did they do when they weren't fighting? Well, in the United States, some of them you sent out west. Some of them you hired for U.S. Marshals, or you hired for exciting, risky jobs like Wells Fargo drivers, like Wells Fargo transporters. And so the United States is not a country that is only founded on violence. Every state exists that has a monopoly on violence, has some violence in that society. But I think it's wrong to say that there's like a force doctrine to debate or argue that that there is just some like almost supernatural, magical category of violence that exists that transcends reason, that transcends the actual circumstances of the world. I don't see it. I don't understand where that is. So demonstrate that to me. If you're supporting Donald Trump's posturing about Greenland, about Venezuela, about Colombia, about Iran, about China, I want you to demonstrate it. If you're supporting Donald Trump's posturing about NATO, demonstrate it. Tell me why this is right. Tell me not just why it's moral, but it's based on true things. I don't think we should descend into chaos or have absurdity in the system when we don't have to. What's up? Good to see everyone. Sorry, I'm not reading chat that much. I'll read a couple messages and stuff too. If you guys want to like and subscribe too, appreciate seeing you guys. Yeah, just kind of going through some stuff. You're an idiot. It should be illegal to spew nonsense. Thank you. Yeah, this is the first message I see. I'm a victim here, everybody. You know, I want you to see that I was trying and I'm a victim here. If it doesn't look like I'm a victim here, this guy's calling me an idiot. I don't think I'm an idiot. No offense. Good to see you, though. I don't think it should be illegal. You're talking about free speech. John Stuart Mill is a big one. You know, our own Constitution and another big one. So I hopefully get to speak. I hopefully don't speak so peacefully that you decide you get to be more violent just to prove that you're going to be wrong long term. Please stop speaking about things you don't understand. What didn't I understand, Trent? What didn't I understand? And what don't you understand? Or what do you understand? Instead of ordering me around, I'd appreciate if you corrected me, or if you correct me or teach me something. Tell me what I don't understand, Trent. Who's excited for ICE to come to their city? No, I agree with the Minneapolis mayor. You have thousands of ICE agents actually running through the street, right? This constitutes hundreds of operations in neighborhoods, next to schools, next to hospitals, next to businesses. You have ICE conducting hundreds of operations. I don't believe ICE is an effective deterrent. I don't believe that enforcement, as the Trump administration is doing it, is either legal or desirable. I don't believe that level of enforcement is true, right? You know, come on over, folks. Truthfully, why not? Change my mind. Prove me wrong. Come on over, folks. You just like to hear yourself talk because you're a narcissist. Yeah, I'm sorry if I come off that way. I try not to. I try to listen to what people have to say. This is another thing I don't understand, or you can explain it to me. But if I'm explaining to you that I want you to explain something to me or correct me, I don't see that as narcissistic. But yeah. Hey, what's up, Plantman Cheesehead? Good to see you again. You got auto-modded by the YouTube algorithm for whatever TOS stuff a little bit, but it's good to see you, and it's good to see you regardless. Oil is still the most important commodity. Yeah. You know, one of the things is that, you know, it's curious why Chinese style diplomacy isn't operating in Iran, given oil and energy. And the United States obviously doesn't want to hand that over. We obviously don't want to see that region form from our own strategic interest, very psychotic, very psycho geopolitics stuff. But we don't want to see more Chinese influence in the Middle East. And yeah, you know, China saying, well, there's certain states that are good. Well, for China, it's the states that want to keep buying old manufacturing equipment, buy new manufacturing equipment. It's people who are willing to build these small sectors and not compete on energy ever. And so to me, that's also not a conversation. So it's not competitive. It's not strategic. It's not tactical. Cool. Beyond looks like they know some things. They got a mother, father, grandfather who lived under colonial rule. The Philippines is an interesting one. The Philippines is one where control really began taking hold and then eventually broke after the Second World War. They refined an important amount of oil, as well as represented this important foothold when opposing other industrialized nations, right? So you don't really care about the person who is having to buy, sell, trade for firearms. If you're in the 20th century, mid 20th century, the person who still can't manufacture all of their own stuff and doesn't have the energy for it, you don't care about. But you do care about Japan, who has enough, right? Germany had about 4 times the oil they needed to wage a war, which isn't a lot, but it is still a lot. So Germany was a scary country, and in terms of just competitive pressures, you must respond to or really get out of the game. Germany and Japan was it, I think. Defamation and slander. So if you want to legalize something, so that's what you know about, G. What if you know about legal stuff, defamation and slander, these legal terms? Teach me about them. Talk about your views. I'm following you. Me? Yeah, I believe in nonviolence. I'm a political science major, so I believe that part of nonviolence is competition. Part of nonviolence is not being totally ignorant, right? And yeah, from my perspective, the United States exports institutional democracy better than anyone else. And by exporting it, it's just those are the countries and systems we work well for. That's why we compete. That's why we get out of bed in the morning. And that is also the system that will carry us into the future. Institutional democracies produce wealth. They produce inclusion. They fix problems over time. And so we should focus not on accelerating the violence, not on accelerating waste, not on accelerating environmental degradation, but institutional democracy should accelerate towards the things we do well. And we should let our both allies and adversaries very much know, telegraph this is who we are and this is what we're doing. And then, just get out of the way. And when big issues come up, we'll talk about those. When big issues arise, when global threats arise, we don't need Team America. We need conversation, dialogue, and discussion. So that's what I believe. Oh, we were just taught, Elrod missed the conversation about historical Jesus. Dang. Marco's got the zingers and stuff. Good to see everyone. I can't keep up with chatting and all this stuff. Underwater welders makes. Yeah, I have a cousin somewhere far in my family. He's a diesel mechanic, but he's a diesel mechanic for like giant boats, like friggers and freighters and stuff. And yeah, the jobs that you can take, just they do really well. It's also complicated work, right? Because when you're engineering or doing mechanical things on a diesel engine that's the size of your bedroom, it's also the environment. So you're competing with the environment and the machine itself. And so you have to be very hardworking, a lot of times passionate about that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of good jobs like that. I got to sign off soon because, like I said, I went live early because I got some stuff to do today. But if you guys want to like the stream, subscribe, catch another one. Hey, Cameron Flynn, good to see you. It's been a while. Yeah. If we had AI, it would cut through ignorance and disease. Yeah, but you can get a 6-inch sub too. I've heard many horror stories from underwater welders seeing weird undocumented beings down there. Yeah, maybe in the from the Mariana Trench, if you have to go weld something, maybe we could weld the ocean to the ocean down there or something. Yeah, who knows? I might do another one of these tonight or something. Obviously, whatever. If you guys are signed into YouTube, I'll see some of you guys. And yeah, maybe I can try to do better with chat next time. I didn't get to talk to you guys at all because you guys were yelling at me and I'm yelling about Iran and stuff. And so I think we can fix that. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hey, Julia, good to see you too. I don't know if you were here earlier or just got here, but good timing. I'm closing the stream out. See you, John Deere. Take care. Bye, Prof. I just know your PFP, by the way, Profoac 22. But it's good to see you again. Yeah, I'll take care. Bye.